Welcome to Behavioral Health Bites, where we dive into crucial topics surrounding mental health. In honor of Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, today's discussion will focus on the unique challenges men face regarding their mental health. Our goal is to shed light on these issues, break down stigmas, and offer support to those who need it. Joining me today are Rick Straight, licensed professional counselor and substance use division director, Alex Gould, a provisional registered alcohol and drug counselor and co-occurring specialist, and Gary Huggins, our electronic health records administrator. And I'm Jake Alsop, our director of recruitment at Community Counseling Center. But let's start our conversation by addressing some foundational aspects of men's mental health. So first, let's talk a little bit about personal experiences. So if you all don't mind, could you each share a bit about your personal journey with mental health and what experiences or challenges you faced? Rick?
So for me, I probably had depression growing up. I didn't know it was depression growing up, but it wasn't until I got older and after I had some other mental health things that occurred in my life that I realized it was depression. I just thought it was normal. Not something we really talked about.
Yeah.
And then when I was in the Marine Corps, some things happened in my life that made things worse, and it spiraled. And it got to the point that I made a suicide attempt. And it was after that, and years of not talking about that I eventually realized that it was depression, and eventually was able to get some help for that.
Yeah. Alex, how about yourself?
Yeah, I was your classic little country boy that grew up in Arkansas, kind of a dual mixed family, and just kind of lived my happy little life out in the countryside. And I didn't really realize the trauma that my divorced parents, Spanish-speaking father, English-speaking mother in Arkansas were. I didn't even know what mental health was until I went to college when I was 18. So, and that's where really things just kind of came out for me. It's like, dang,
this is real.
This is real. Holy crap, this is affecting me. I was freshman in college, had my first panic attack. I'm like, geez Louise, what is this?
Yeah.
So you want to talk about you have depression? I was what is this I'm feeling? I need a label for this.
Yeah.
And so that's where I really got into learning about it. It's college. I went through many years of counseling, got on some medications in college, and it's okay, this is what it's like to feel happy on the outside and the inside.
Yeah.
Because I'm the guy, I'm the country boy. I'm always happy. I'm always ready to go to work.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So.
No, that's thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Gary?
For me, I had a sheltered background as a child, and I didn't get to express myself a lot of the ways I wanted, so there was really no independence growing up. And as I got to an age where it was finally time for me to move out and discover independence, I ended up getting involved in a religious cult, which pretty much took away the independence that I was looking for. And so with all of that, with my childhood, it got to be to a point where I knew something was wrong with me, but I didn't really have that opportunity to share with anyone.
Yeah.
What was,
Gotcha. So,
suppression.
and is there anything specifically between the three of you all that you want to highlight that you feel, as far as an event or a period in your life that had a significant impact on your mental health as a whole?
I think for me personally, I grew up in a very religious household, and I do honor that religion. And I think sometimes what I fail to realize is the religion is an important aspect, but also seeking professional help, faith-based or non-faith-based. That was a big realization, oh, I can talk to somebody about this and still be in line with my religious views.
Oh,
that was
absolutely.
a boom for me.
Yeah. Right, Gary, anything on your all's end?
I think probably one of the biggest defining things about mental health, in 1993, my brother was killed in a car accident, and I was trying to be strong for my parents. I was trying to be strong for my family. I was trying to make sure all the logistics were taken care of. And on top of the depression I already had growing up, I had this grief that I really couldn't talk about and didn't feel comfortable talking about because I needed to hold it all together. And that's kind of, I think, what caused things to spiral for me pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I know we'll be talking about that a little bit more as well, because I know that affects a lot of men who are experiencing, mental health issues or anything really, being able to mask those and have to push it down, right, and keep going strong. Anything on your end?
I'd say it was the cult experience back in my 20s as I was trying to grow up, if you would call it that. And at a time where most people my age were already growing things. I felt like a child, and I felt that most of the things I wanted to accomplish in life were squashed, and it took me a step back.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and kind of as I mentioned, stigma and societal expectations. I mean, that is major. How do you think that societal expectations and stereotypes about masculinity, how's that affected men's mental health? Start right here on my left.
Well, I mean, just growing up, and I think we're doing better now.
Yeah.
But I think growing up as boys, we were kind of taught not to share our feelings and emotions.
Yep.
If you had something, you usually came out as anger, and anger was okay because you're boys will be boys.
Right.
But sadness, you were called a sissy, or you were called this. So we learned at a really young age to stuff those feelings and keep them to ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for me, like I got lucky because like my grandmother did a big part in raising me, so she was so nurturing and loving in that sense. It's like, what's wrong? Like I didn't know how to verbalize it, but she was always caring.
Yeah.
But my problem was it became like isolation because like I can only tell my grandmother, this feminine figure, how I'm feeling. I can't go to Gary over here because like that's my dude, that's my bro. Like no,
Yeah.
I'm good, man.
Yeah.
So it's like, who do I talk to?
Absolutely. Yourself?
Yeah, so for me, being from the male perspective, we were told that we needed to put on this front that we're men, and this is not how men feel. So we need to be strong. And even though we had these feelings inside, there was no real way to share them without being made fun of. So
Right.
there was a lot of times we had to put on a front, even though inside it was a lot of hurt.
Yeah. Well, real men don't cry, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
how often have you all heard that?
Lord have
And-
mercy.
Or the fun of man up. Great. What's that supposed to mean? Yeah. Well, speaking of manning up, have you felt that pressure from those people that are close to you, or even in general, to man up or suppress those emotions even more strongly than what we just discussed?
I feel a lot less as time has gone on. Now, it's still there,
Yeah.
but not as it used to be, say, 20, 30 years ago. Back then, I think it was more, you need to man up on this. But I think at the time, mental health wasn't as noticed as it is now. And I think that's playing a big role now for us to actually come out and for other people to learn and say, okay, you do have feelings, you are validated, and therefore, we're willing to listen.
Yeah, and I know even for myself too. I've got twin boys at home that are 5, so this is something that sits really close to me. As growing up, it was one of those pieces that just didn't talk about. Compartmentalize it, push it down, and even working in this field is still something I have to actively try to do and make sure that I can reach out to help, because there's still that piece in the back of my brain, which is, you got to provide, you have to be here, you can't show any weakness, and that just compounds and compounds and compounds and hasn't really worked out if we don't get help for it. So really appreciate the sharing of that. Anything else, Alex, Rick, on your end?
I was gonna say, like, I think one of my biggest pet peeves, I don't like hearing, but I often do, is like, hey man, how you doing? I'm good. How are you? I'm good. Grass is good. The sky is good. But it's just such a natural thing for me to say, and I just I'm not doing good. So, but it's kind of natural for me at times. That's what I want to say because it's just simple. Let's move on.
Yeah.
So,
And do you really want to dive right into how you're feeling in that moment? I mean, my go-to is, we're surviving. Surviving. That's
fair way.
that's probably a little bit more accurate for me than good. But no, I think it's a really great point as well.
For me, I think the biggest example of being told to man up was I was in the Marine Corps, and it's when I was having suicidal thoughts, and we didn't talk about suicide then at all.
Yeah.
But I knew that those weren't normal, and I didn't necessarily want to go down that path, but that's what I was feeling. And so I reached out and I talked to a chaplain, and the chaplain pointed out, all these other people have things so much worse than you.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be fine, Marine. And I left that just feeling kind of broke.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, he's right. People do have it worse than me, and if they can handle it, I can't.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a really defining moment for me. It made me feel like a failure.
So do you feel that validation is something that's really important in today's society when it comes to men seeking help from mental
Oh,
health?
definitely. I think we should praise the people and thank them for sharing those things, because it's something that's inside them, it's intimate, it's important, and when they're able to express that's kind of a gift.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've always liked the phrase of, if you break a bone, you go to the doctor, go to the orthopedic, get that fixed. I mean, you do the same thing if you need some mental health help as well. Got to go and talk about it and get it fixed too.
Exactly.
Best that we can.
Exactly.
What about those barriers? We've talked about some of the stigmas, the societal factors and stereotypes. What are some of those barriers, or what do you feel are the biggest barriers that prevent a male from seeking that professional mental health help, or even unprofessional mental health help?
I think unprofessional mental health help is because sometimes, like as Alex was saying about, no, he's a friend, he's a bro. I don't have that discussion with them because how are they going to think of me? Are they going to look at me different? So we may have some fears there because it's not been very openly discussed. And then professionally, it could be partially the same thing, but also how's it going to impact my job? How am I going to pay for it? I got to take care of my family. And trying to be that role model and trying to raise a family and take care of them. That sometimes you kind of just keep stuffing and I'll get through it. I've got through it this long. I'll keep getting through it.
Keep powering on.
Exactly. Yeah. I think for me, just like my whole dare I say coming out process, that was just like a hard time. It was like, who do I feel comfortable telling this is who I've always been?
Yeah.
And then when I need the treatment, like, is this counselor going to judge me because I'm gay? Are they going to treat me differently? That was a big barrier, especially like in these small towns where I'm from. It's like, this is just part of who I am. Sometimes I need to process that. Other times I just want to make sure you won't judge me for being gay, this singular factor. That's what been that was a huge barrier for me, especially in those younger years.
Yeah, I think as far as barriers go is, just what we talked about earlier, the fact that we're expected to act a certain way, and that's how it's been seen. Like I said, it's getting better, but I still feel there's always going to be some sort of barrier when it comes to us trying to access mental health.
Absolutely.
It is getting better, though.
Yeah. And with that too, what would your piece of encouragement be for a person, a man who's seeking, these various services, who needs to get that mental health help? What would be that piece of encouragement you would give them?
I feel that we're not alone. There's a lot of time I've had these feelings and I was thinking I must be the only person like this, but as you get to meet people and talk to people and share experiences, you start to think, you get this, you understand that we're having the same issues. So knowing people that are having the same thing, that's very encouraging.
Yeah.
Same issues.
Not in it alone, right?
I think another thing too is just we're after living in Costa Rica, I realized we're lucky. Like you seeing a professional for assistance counseling, it's private. We counselors through HIPAA, you cannot share the information. What's said in counseling stays in counseling. Yeah. Which is for me, I was 19, oh thank God, my grandmother's not going to know about this. It's this is strictly between us two. Yeah. It was a great experience because in other countries in Costa Rica, that was not the case. So just being able I can talk to this counselor in private and confidence and nobody's got to know about it. Right. It's
I kind of just get it out there.
Exactly.
Right? Absolutely.
Yeah, I go kind of with what Gary said over there, is that recognizing as more people talk about it, that it's so common.
Yeah.
And then when you can start forming that bond and you can have that communication, I know we've seen it get better in society in some ways. You see athletes and movie stars talking about it. It necessarily has some trickle down all the way, but I know healthy work cultures where you can talk about those things make a difference. Yeah. And so what I would just recommend is just recognizing, as Gary said, you're not alone. Yeah. You're not the only person feeling this way. There's others that do understand.
Yeah. Well, and I think you bring up a good point too, which is that workplace, right? So when we're in the workplace, do you have any thoughts or ideas on how a workplace can better support our mental health?
A couple things at the top of my mind come up. Then there's several official certification workplaces can go to and get, but even things like having mental health first aid classes, getting your human resources trained and looking what to look for, supervisors training what to look for, developing supervisors that can talk to their staff and encourage them to take care of themselves. One of the things I like about working where I work is we have that culture here. We are open about talking things like that. We provide support for each other. We still get our job done.
Yeah.
we don't put that aside, but I know that if I'm struggling, I can talk to my boss.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be judged. I know that I can take, hey, I need to take a mental health day. And it's going to be okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I would agree. Couldn't agree with you more because it's like I can have these conversations with my coworkers and like during our lunchtime, be like, "Yeah, things have been kind of struggling lately," and it's like it's a normal conversation for us around here. It's like, "Oh yeah, I just talked to my counselor and we just talked about like this and just we can be honest about going that and." Just making that just a normal, like, this is our lunch break, this is our time to decompress, and how have you really been doing?
Yeah.
And just making that a norm, I think is like huge, so especially for us men. It's like, cut the crap aside, like, how are you really doing?
Right, right. Not just surviving, right?
Right, I agree with both of them as far as, being here, working with everyone in a mental health facility. We all understand that, we have a job to do, but at the same time, since we're all working in mental health, we should be able to talk to each other and understand each other.
And I've always made that small joke too. It is nice that we're all surrounded by mental health professionals and clinicians that if we need to bounce something off of, they're right there, right?
Yeah.
Which I think that's important, is having that support system too. So who or what has been your greatest support systems as it relates to your all's mental health?
I have to say, hands down, it's been indirect, but it's definitely like my grandmother.
Yeah.
Because she did a lot of indirect, and we go back and explore before she passed, how she wished she had known more and wished she could have done better. She was in her 80s when she passed a couple of years ago, and she's like, if I had known this was around, I would have helped you got that. But she was always that person, I can come to you and cry on your shoulder.
Yeah.
And just having that person that I can come to you just to talk with.
Yeah.
And we're lucky, like we're getting that. We're like, I think you said, we got a long way to go to get awareness going, but we're doing it. It may be small steps, but I'm just glad that I can access that without judgment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have a couple different things that people I reach out to. One, coworkers.
Yep.
We have a lunch call. We have a lunch call every
That's
day.
so nice.
That's virtual in our department, and it's optional. Nobody has to do it. But we get in, and the only rule is you can't talk about work.
Yeah.
And so while we're eating lunch, we're just communicating and getting to know each other. Some days it's jokes and nothing important. The next day it's somebody sharing something, and then we move on the rest of our day. But then I also have some other counselors that I am connected with through a social media thing that we just kind of check in on each other every day.
Yeah.
And then my family definitely is my biggest support, and I can be open and honest with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, it's been my wife.
Yeah.
She obviously knows a lot. She works in HR, so she deals with stuff on a regular basis. And I don't know her companies. They're not mental health, but she seems to be putting that role a lot. So it's easy for me to come home after a day at work and vent to her.
Yeah.
And she gets it. So she's been my support system.
Absolutely. Well, and when we are working, with our own mental health, I think coping skills and coping mechanisms is another important topic to touch on. What are some healthy and effective coping mechanisms that you all use in your day-to-day to help with your mental health?
Well, I'll just be full disclosure. That's something I'm always working on improving.
Yeah.
Because it does take a long time to take that shift from stuffing and feelings to open them. But one of the biggest things I've done for a coping thing is I'm just honest about my feelings, and I said I think about them, and then if I feel overwhelmed, I reach out to people.
Yeah.
I don't let it start to even begin to build up anymore.
Exactly.
And so that's probably my biggest individual coping skill.
Yeah.
I could agree with you more on that one because I am as extroverted as it gets. I know me having quiet time, no. Me going to my best friends who are there, have been there for my whole journey, are the people I can go to, this is what's on my mind, and this I do. Also too, I know it's a manly thing to do, going to exercise. I quit the idea of I'm exercising to lose weight. I'm exercising just because it feels nice. And it gets me some stress. Something about just putting the boxing gloves on.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, it's always been music and meditation. Mainly music because I am a musician, but also because I live so far away from here. I have an hour and 15-minute commute each way. It's easy for me to just put on my music and unwind. when I'm there and also when I'm leaving. So I just shut everything down, put on my music, and it allows me to cope.
I have to ask, does your genre of music change at all depending on the type of day that you've had?
Not really.
No, keep it pretty consistent.
Pretty much so. I get what you're saying, but it's still a definite no.
Yeah. Any hobbies or activities that you all have that you feel really helps enhance your mental well-being?
I'm laughing because it's like, honestly, where are my people at?
Yeah.
Like, I'm an extrovert. It is something I think it's, as a man, like, I'm an extrovert. I get my energy by being around people.
Yeah.
That's what I gotta do. Maybe it's we're going by the river, hanging out. Maybe we're exercising. Maybe we're just chillaxing after work and just hanging out. Like,
And I'm the opposite of Alex. I'm an introvert by nature, so I tend to get my strength a lot of times by doing things by myself, reading, watching, comedy shows, things like that. But I also like riding my four-wheeler because I don't think about anything else when I'm riding that. That's like an amazing coping skill. It kind of keeps me going mentally well and recharging. But yeah, I do still, even as an introvert, I still have those groups I still stay connected with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for me, it's all about the music.
Yeah.
So I spend, when I'm not working and not doing, family stuff, I'm in my studio practicing. So, and that also, a lot of motivation and things I'm working on have to do with how the day has gone and stuff. So it's easy for me to cope. Just get in there, shut my eyes, and just focus on practicing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Alex going, to the group of friends and getting out there. So I can be a little hit or miss on it. Sometimes I love it, go out with a group of people and get the time with them. But, for myself too, I do like that alone time. One of my favorites is being able to even get into the woods during deer or turkey season.
Yeah.
And even if I don't see anything, just sitting out there and enjoying the peace and quiet just for myself, I think is really important. That, and I won't say no to a little small round of golf on my own either. Put the headphones in and just go. Doesn't matter how good we play anyway. So, but from there, we did discuss some of those workplace topics too, and how that can be a support for ourselves. Are there any workplace changes in general that you feel would be beneficial in the support of men's mental health? Anything that comes to mind?
one thing is just like having like a dialogue about it, because like there's a lot of things happening in June between like Juneteenth, Pride. One of the things that people don't think about is June is Men's Mental Health Awareness. A lot of people just don't know about it. So even just say like, this month we are also recognizing, just adding that to the addition of all the great things that are happening.
Yeah.
I think that just opens up a lot of conversations.
Absolutely.
I would agree completely with what you're saying.
I don't, for myself, I don't even know if I knew men's mental health awareness was a thing until, just a few years ago, and, with working here. So I do feel that, that does start it. But again, having that, just that general conversation as an agency, as a corporation, as a company, saying, hey, we see you and we understand that this is important. And talk about it. Don't compartmentalize and don't mask it.
Oh, yeah.
We need to be able to talk about it.
And you see that in some of the other, like we do it here at the mental health agency, which is great. And I've worked at other agencies that maybe didn't do that so much. But I think we have really good things here. But I've also seen it in other industries. You see it with our law enforcement. They're doing more self-care and talking about those things, the construction industry. So I think as more and more employers make it a comfortable workplace conversation, I think we'll see that ripple effect.
Yeah, and even on that topic too, prior to coming into this, I used to work in the pre-hospital setting. So I worked in the EMS field, and I really felt at that time there was a certain stigma associated with discussing how a call affected you, because the worry, whether it was founded or not, was that if we talk about it, then we're going to get pulled off the truck, and if we're pulled off the truck, we can't work our 24s. If we can't work our 24s, we don't get our overtime, we can't make our money. So you mask and you hide it, and you use substance use and anything else to try and cover those feelings until it just, again, completely compounds, and we have people that burn out.
I think that's one thing like our agency does such a great job with. When we get hired, we talk about our EAP.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then our HR department will send out reminders about EAP and reminding us that it's confidential.
Yeah.
So like if I need, and I've used EAP, and if I need to talk to somebody, nobody's going to know that I'm doing that or what I'm
Right.
talking about. I could be talking about my supervisor.
Yeah.
I'm not, but I could be.
Yeah.
I could be talking about other things going on in my life. But when we have that, and we even incorporate that in our supervision, if we recognize somebody is struggling, to just remind them that they're not forcing it, just
Yeah.
reminding them it's an option. I think that's important too.
Absolutely, and I completely agree. You know, the EAP, the Employees Assistance Program, a lot of companies have these in place, and it typically will give you free services for therapy and counseling. And for us, we do have two different options on that side, whether it be teletherapy through an app on our phone, where we don't even have to go to an office to get services, to actually having that in-person provider that you can go and speak with in person. So there are a lot of those options available for individuals who are looking for mental health help. And I always encourage, if I have a friend or family member who asked about, well, where can I go to find these services? My first question, have you looked into your company and see if they have an EAP? Because at least get a little bit of help for free, and then you can figure it out from there as well. Absolutely. So from here, I do want to talk just a little bit more about future. So as we look forward, as we think about men's mental health in the next 10, 15, 20 years, what would you all like to see changed? What change could be made to where society can address men's mental health and make it more a prevalent topic for everyone?
So Jake, I think you kind of brought that up in another way earlier. We talk about your twin sons.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, we want employers to do more and be aware. We want society to be aware, but it's going to just take us role modeling it.
Absolutely.
For our next generation, and that they can role model for their next generation. I know I have two sons, and I try really hard to be very open about mental health with them, and they in turn have been pretty open about mental health with me.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that ripple effect will continue, and more people having those conversations. And kind of like what Alex said, not that, hey, how are you doing? Good, I'm good. No, literally, how are you doing? Hey, today's tough.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is there anything I can do to help?
Exactly.
Not really, I just need a minute.
Yeah.
And we can still go on. I think as we make those conversations as normal as, can you patch the ketchup? How's your mental health?
Right.
And then following up.
And I think that makes me laugh a little bit as well, because I know that as men, as males, we sometimes tend to be fixers of problems. I know that was a point of contention. Anytime my wife would bring me a situation or an issue, my first instinct is, well, this is how we can fix it. Here's a solution. But that may not always be the case, right? Sometimes if we are asking another guy, hey, how are you doing? And they say bad, and we ask, well, what can I do? Nothing. I just need to vent. We don't have to fix it. You know, sometimes that listening ear is important, even for ourselves too, right? Even if we just need to talk through that problem or situation, it's still just having a helping ear.
Absolutely. And like some of the stigmas too is just like, emotions make you weak. It's like this, bringing that normalcy. It's like we all have emotions, like it or not how you're feeling. It's a normal part of your body. It's a normal biological process. And I also remember hearing so often, it's like, oh, he's more emotional because he's gay, or he's more emotional because he was raised by women. Right. There's a stigma, and I'm glad that stigma's kind of gone away, at least from my personal experience.
Yeah.
But I still hear like emotions will make you weak. As you are suffering from your emotions, and it's like, let's normalize it. We have emotions, we have them.
We can cry if we need to. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah, sometimes that does help, believe it or not. I mean, my kids even see me Finding Nemo is the worst. It gets me every time. They're like, Dad, you're crying. It's like, it's okay, buddy. We cry a lot. And also The Office, and there's too many to count. Yeah, they roll. So they know it's normal, though.
Exactly. And then having parents like you, just like, my kids to see me cry.
Yeah.
I watched the movie, made me cry. I think this is an important thing, too, as a father. For you. I'm not a father, but like for yourselves, like, what a great role model that is, too.
I appreciate that. We try. Gary, anything on your side?
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, that needs to be normalized. So I've never said this to anybody outside of my wife, but when my father was alive, I never in my whole life saw him cry, ever. I mean, he may have, but I never saw it. Right. So, we have these feelings as men, and the way I was brought up, men acted a certain way, and I think in the future as we go forth, we need to be more vigilant about letting men know that these things are okay.
Yeah.
I still struggle with it myself. You know, anytime I get emotional, I go try to hide.
Yeah.
Learning, especially with my wife around, that these feelings are okay to be, you know, in the open. So.
I think that's a really interesting point too, because even as I look back as well with my father, it's maybe one occasion and it was a death that occurred, and that was the only time I saw him cry. Even looking to my uncles, my grandfather, nope, don't think I've ever seen that happen either. Because again, if we can make it normal and say, hey, emotions, we have them, they're real, right? It's okay to express them. I think that is really important as we do look forward, and again, look at that generational side of things too. Great. If you could give one piece of advice to other men who are struggling with mental health or even feeling comfortable to go and ask for that help, what would it be?
I'm going to steal Gary's. You're not alone.
Yeah.
We all have those feelings. As Alex said, we all have them. And so you're not alone. Reach out for help. You're worth getting help for. And by getting help for yourself, you're still going to be able to help your family.
Yeah.
It's going to make you better at that role.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
You nailed it. That's all I was going to say. You nailed it.
And I just want to say a thing too. It's like, it's okay not to be okay. So it's okay not to be okay. We're so lucky because like they're now with like the 988 text crisis line.
Yes.
Just like I love you can just text that number. You're feeling like you're not okay. You need extra support. It's just such a big thing. And let me text that. Let me reach out. Like access that crisis help. Like I just need somebody to talk to.
Absolutely.
Do it as the man that you are, the father, the grandfather, the child, whatever your role is. Do it for yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's really important as well. You know, we have these resources that are around us that can keep us safe too, because there are those times where we hit those points where we need that additional help before something catastrophic happens, you know, to ourselves, to our family. And I think 988 is a really good point to make, and it is a resource that's right there for us.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get confused with 988 and think it's only for suicide crisis, but it really is for any type of crisis, substance use, depression, any kind of struggle. Call, talk to somebody. They can help connect you with services. They can. Sometimes just talking about it one time can make such a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, fellas, really appreciate you all. And I do have one last question for you before we wrap up. What do you all feel has been the biggest takeaway from our discussion today?
We're not alone. I'm going to say it again. Gary said it first, but I've known both these gentlemen for a while, and just having this discussion today, I already feel more bonded to them, and recognizing there's other people here that we're not alone.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. It's just having, like, I know all three of y'all outside of this, so it's just nice to have this open dialogue. It's like, I know you, but it's nice to actually talk about this. It makes me feel more validated and like accepted, because it's like, oh, this is a natural conversation to have.
Yeah.
I agree, and not only that, I feel like I can be more open with others now, not only with you guys, but other people that work here and even outside, but, you know, especially those who are here now.
You ain't hiding your emotions from me now that I know that.
Now it's out there in the open, right? Well, thank you all for sharing your experiences with us again. And again, we really appreciate having this open conversation and dialogue about men's mental health. So it is crucial that we have these conversations and continue to have these conversations to support each other. And for everyone who is watching, who's listening to us, just remember that seeking help is a sign of strength. It's not a sign of weakness. And let's all work together to break down those barriers and stigmas that are surrounding men's mental health. And until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Thanks, you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.